Thunder rolled, lightning flashed, the veil of the temple was rent from top to bottom. The venerable initiator in his robes of blue and gold slowly raised his jeweled wine and pointed with it into the darkness revealed by the tearing of the silken curtain. Behold the light of Egypt! The candidate in his plain white robe gazed into the utter blackness framed by the two great lotus-headed columns between which the veil had hung. As he watched, a luminous haze distributed itself throughout the atmosphere until the air was a mass of shining particles. The face of the neophyte was illumined by the soft glow as he scanned the shimmering cloud for some tangible object. The initiator spoke again. This light which you behold is the secret luminous of the mysteries. Whence it comes, none knoweth, save the master of the light. Behold him. Suddenly, through the glimmering mist, a figure appeared, surrounded by a flickering greenish sheen. The initiator lowered his wine and, bowing his head, placed one hand edgewise against his breast in humble salutation. The neophyte stepped back in awe, partly blinded by the glory of the revealed figure. Gaining courage, the youth gazed again at the divine one. The form before him was considerably larger than that of a mortal man. The body seemed partly transparent, so that the heart and brain could be seen pulsating and radiant. As the candidate watched, the heart changed into an ibis and the brain into a flashing emerald. In its hand, this mysterious being bore a winged rod entwined with serpents. The aged initiator, raising his wine, cried out in a loud voice, All hail thee, Thoth Hermes, thrice greatest! All hail thee, Prince of Men! All hail thee, who standeth upon the head of the typhoon! At the same instant, a lurid, writhing dragon appeared, a hideous monster, part serpent, part crocodile, and part hog. From its mouth and nostrils poured sheets of flame, and horrible sounds echoed throughout the vaulted chambers. Suddenly, Hermes struck the advancing reptile with the serpent-wound staff, and with gnarling cry the dragon fell upon its side, while the flames about it slowly died away. Hermes placed his foot upon the skull of the vanquished typhoon. The next instant, with a blaze of unbearable glory that sent the neophyte staggering backwards against a pillar, the immortal Hermes, followed by streamers of green mist, passed through the chamber and faded into nothingness. Suppositions concerning the identity of Hermes, and these come from page 93 in the book Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. Iamblichus averred that Hermes was the author of 20,000 books. Manetho increased the number to more than 36,000. Figures which make it evident that a solitary individual, even though he be overshadowed by divine prerogative, could scarcely have accomplished such a monumental labor. Among the arts and sciences which it is affirmed Hermes revealed to mankind were medicine, chemistry, law, art, astrology, music, rhetoric, magic, philosophy, geography, mathematics, anatomy, and oratory. In his Biographia Antiqua, Francis Barrett says of Hermes, If God ever appeared in man, he appeared in him, as is evident both from his books and his Pymander, in which works he has communicated the sum of the abyss and the divine knowledge to all posterity, by which he has demonstrated himself to have been not only an inspired divine, but also a deep philosopher, obtaining his wisdom from God in heavenly things, and not from man. His transcendent learning caused Hermes to be identified with many of the early sages and prophets. In his ancient mythology, Bryant writes, I have mentioned that Cadmus was the same as the Egyptian Thoth, and it is manifest from his being Hermes and from the invention of letters being attributed to him. Investigators believe that it was Hermes who was known to the Jews as Enoch, called by Kenealy the second messenger of God. Hermes was accepted into the mythology of the Greeks, later becoming the Mercury of the Latins. He was revered through the form of the planet Mercury because this body is nearest to the sun. Hermes, of all creatures, was nearest to God and became known as the messenger of the gods. In the Egyptian drawings of him, Thoth carries a waxen writing tablet and serves as the recorder during the weighing of the souls of the dead in the judgment hall of Osiris, a ritual of great significance. Hermes is of first importance to Masonic scholars because he was the author of the Masonic initiatory rituals, which were borrowed from the mysteries established by Hermes. Nearly all of the Masonic symbols are Hermetic in character. Pythagoras studied mathematics with the Egyptians and from them gained his knowledge of the symbolic geometric solids. Hermes is also revered for his reformation of the calendar system. He increased the year from 360 to 365 days, thus establishing a precedent which still prevails. The appellation, thrice greatest, was given to Hermes because he was considered the greatest of all philosophers, the greatest of all priests, and the greatest of all kings. It is worthy of note that the last poem of America's beloved poet, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, was a lyric ode to Hermes. The mutilated Hermetic fragments. On the subject of the Hermetic books, James Campbell Brown, in his History of Chemistry, has written, leaving the Chaldean and earliest Egyptian periods of which we have remains but no records, and from which no names of either chemists or philosophers have come down to us, we now approach the historic period when books were written not at first upon parchment or paper, but upon papyrus. A series of early Egyptian books is attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, who may have been a real savant or may be a personification of a long succession of writers. He is identified by some with the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian Thoth or Tuti, who was the moon god and is represented in ancient paintings as Ibis headed with the disk and crescent of the moon. The Egyptians regarded him as the god of wisdom, letters, and the recording of time. It is in consequence of the great respect entertained for Hermes by the old alchemists that chemical writings were called hermetic, and that phrase hermetically sealed is still in use to designate the closing of a glass vessel by fusion. After the manner of chemical manipulators, we find the same root in the Hermetic medicines of Paracelsus and the Hermetic Freemasonry of the Middle Ages. Among the fragmentary writings believed to have come from the stylus of Hermes are two famous works. The first is the Emerald Table, and the second is the Divine Pymander, or it is more commonly called the Shepherd of Men, a discussion of which follows. One outstanding point in connection with Hermes is that he was one of the few philosopher priests of pagandom upon whom the early Christians did not vent their spleen. One of the greatest tragedies of the philosophic world was the loss of nearly all of the 42 books of Hermes mentioned in the foregoing. These books disappeared during the burning of Alexandria. For the Romans and later the Christians realized that until these books were eliminated, they could never bring the Egyptians into subjection. The volumes which escaped the fire were buried in the desert, and their location is now known to only a few initiates of the secret schools. The Book of Thoth While Hermes still walked the earth with men, he entrusted to his chosen successors the sacred book of Thoth. This work contained the secret processes by which the regeneration of humanity was to be accomplished, and also served as the key to his other writings. Nothing definite is known concerning the contents of the Book of Thoth, other than that its pages were covered with strange hieroglyphic figures and symbols, which gave to those acquainted with their use unlimited power over the spirit of the air and the subterranean divinities. When certain areas of the brain are stimulated by the secret processes of the mysteries, that consciousness of man is extended, and he is permitted to behold the immortals and enter into the presence of the superior gods. The Book of Thoth describes the method whereby this stimulation was accomplished. In truth, therefore, it was the key to immortality. According to legend, the Book of Thoth was kept in a golden box in the inner sanctuary of the temple. There was but one key, and this was in the possession of the master of the mysteries, the highest initiate of the Hermetic Arcanum. He also knew what was written in the secret book. The Book of Thoth was lost to the ancient world with the decay of the mysteries, but his faithful initiates carried it sealed into the sacred casket into another land. The book is still in existence and continues to lead the disciples of this age into the presence of the immortals. No other information can be given to the world concerning it now, but the apostolic succession from the first hierophant, initiated by Hermes himself, remains unbroken to this day, and those who are peculiarly fitted to serve the immortals may discover the priceless document if they will search sincerely and tirelessly for it. Pomandres, the vision of Hermes. The divine Pymander of Hermes Trismegistus is one of the earliest of the Hermetic writings now extant. While probably not in its original form, having been remodeled during the first centuries of the Christian era and incorrectly translated since, the work undoubtedly contained many of the original concepts of the Hermetic cultus. The Divine Pymander consists of 17 fragmentary writings gathered together and put forth as one work. The second book of the Divine Pymander, called Pomandres, or the Vision, is believed to describe the method by which the divine wisdom was first revealed to Hermes. It was after Hermes had received this revelation that he began his ministry, teaching to all who would listen the secrets of the invisible universe as they had been unfolded to him. The Vision is the most famous of all the Hermetic fragments and contains an exposition of Hermetic cosmogony and the secret sciences of the Egyptians regarding the culture and unfoldment of the human soul. For some time, it was erroneously called the Genesis of Enoch, but that mistake has now been rectified. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Like and share. And I'll see you on the next episode of Books of Knowledge. Be well.